The road ends here. The stage is set for the final match of United Rogue Season 16. Two teams remain as the Chicago Syndicate face off against the Portland Journey in a titanic battle for Fettuccine League supremacy. It is a story of two very divergent paths when it comes to how these two teams got here. Portland, after staving off elimination with multiple Game 7 clutches, they look to cap off their playoff journey with what would be the franchise's second championship of this season. Chicago, on the other hand, entered the playoff race as the last team in the Eastern Conference, but that only fueled their competitive drive as they dominated their way through the upper bracket. They seek the franchise's first championship since they last won in Season 9. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of United Rogue Rocket League. Pyre Squared on the desk, joined alongside me by Wasey. Not really a whole lot else to say, except there's a lot on the line between these two teams.
Yeah, what a match we've got on our hands, Pi. And you mentioned it earlier, Chicago. What an absolute devastation they've wreaked upon the upper half of the bracket. Not a single series I mentioned has gone to Game 7. So this team, it has just been clean running through everyone in the uppers. We'll see if they can continue that here tonight.
And we talked about how Portland might have struggled a little bit, had to go through multiple Game 7s to get here, but the lower bracket final was no such task. I mean, they were able to take out Mexico City in 6 games and then eventually move on to Maui. And I believe that was a 4-0 sweep the last time we saw this Portland Journey team. So coming off of a fantastic series win, they've got a little bit of momentum, but like we said, Chicago, they've got the opening upper bracket benefit behind them as well. In Portland, they got to have not one series, but 2 as well, because they're going to have to reset the bracket against the upper bracket team in Chicago.
And as we into game number 1, Pi, let's start getting some predictions going. Who you got coming on top for this one?
I mean, if we see the same team that showed up against Maui in the lower bracket final, it's going to be hard to bet against this Portland Journey team, because especially the way that they play, they like to get physical. They like to get the other team off of their game. And if they're able to kind of establish that, well, it might be all that she wrote. But Chicago, they're going to get a little bit of demo happy of their own and get the series opening goal.
Yeah, you mentioned that as well. We talked about Chaos Spike a little bit as we got into this series, Pi. You mentioned that he's one of the most physical players on the pitch, and he's doing a ton of work on the offensive end for Portland. At least for game number 1, the Chicago starting out strong right off the rip, getting a quick first, just what you want to see.
And just wrapping up that little bit of trivia, the team demolitions for Portland, they have 317 coming into this series, or at least that was what was reported as well. Chaos Spike, 207 of those 317 demos. So quite the menace to society on behalf of Portland. Like we said before, if he's able to get going, it kind of drives the offense that Portland likes to play. But Chicago, they're doing a pretty good job of staying out of Chaos's way. They've got the opening lead for now on Arteza with save to keep it that way.
And of course, not the first time these two teams have seen each other, so I'm sure both of them going to be looking out for that Chicago, especially going to be on the lookout. By now, here's Stubblify from the ceiling, looking to do some damage in Portland. Already running a little low on boost from the corner. Chicago looking to hammer home a second. They're so close. Winter just over the crossbar. Things really beginning to heat up now, Pi.
Second extended bout of possession for Chicago. Another shot has to be saved away, and Demolition's off of the ball. Ensure that Portland is able to break out of the stranglehold, but it's sent right back in by Chicago. The deep third for the Syndicate, playing the ball right back in. Arteza with another shot on. Chuck is going to have to come off of the backboard to make the save, but like you pointed out, no boost on the side of Portland. Chaos is able to get one touch, but then it's sent right back in.
Yeah, we've got to hope that's not going to be a recurring theme here for Portland. That's just gone barely wide, but this boost is really starting to get to the Portland Journey. This offensive drive going to come down to a slow halt as Chicago taking possession, but not for very long. Portland, though, as they begin to nab some of these corner boosts, keep control of that mid boost, they'll have a much better chance of reclaiming that 1 goal deficit.
That's going to be interesting to see how the play develops with Portland being so boost starved. Normally, if they run a very demo heavy setup, they got to have a lot of boost behind that, because you got to get up to speed quickly and maintain that speed through those demos. So Chaos, with limited resources, all they can do is play it across the field. It will fall to Spidey. Truck and Spidey both go for the same ball. Truck ends up getting the better of that challenge. They'll get a bump to follow through as well, opening the door potentially for Chaos to get a weak shot on, set aside by Winter. And now Chicago looking to get things set up on the offensive end once again as we pass through halftime.
And now you can kind of see the strategy settling in place for both teams. Portland in particular playing a very deep third man. It's going to allow them to prevent some of these big clears from going over their head. And Chicago over and over from the midfield, looking to take early shots off Rip Portland in tough spots. Here's Chaos though, just on target and gets the pass central. Chicago or both Spidey and Truck in a strong position to make the most of that situation, but still Chicago yet to crack.
And you can see really for Portland, the lack of boost is kind of showing in their inability to keep the ball in any sort of threatening position. We saw the shots come through into the middle of the field, but the second attempts really end up going by the wayside because they don't have the boost to challenge the Chicago defense effectively. And now with Chicago being able to kind of get a little bit more momentum, it might end up going into their favor, especially on the counterattack, but Chaos has enough to make the save.
Yeah, Portland's going to want that one back for sure. It was a bit of a tough bounce to deal with, especially off the near post. That's a bit of a dicey one. Chicago now vying for possession, but Chaos, an absolute menace in the midfield. He's taken out 2 defenders, but Portland struggling enough to keep that possession, so those demos aren't going to do a whole lot for the time being if they can't break out of their own half.
Yeah, they really have to do a better job of that, especially with the follow-up touch that comes from the creation of so much space. And Chaos doing what they do best. They're off hunting for demolitions and leaving their 2 teammates back to handle things, but still no shot on the board for Portland, and they're in danger of giving up another one as Stallfly can't find it on the far post. Trying to stymie Portland as they attempt to break out of their own half. Stallfly is going to get another chance at this ball, but it's still going to bounce very wide of the net. Stallfly looking for a demo that's going to open things up. Arteza has a lofted ball to just slam home. It's a double lead for the Syndicate.
And he is never missing that opportunity. The Portland journey, though, I mean, they're pretty much equal in terms of the shot numbers, I want to say, but of course, numbers not going to mean anything. We've not seen the amount, or actually seen the quality from the Portland journey here on the offensive end. Those demos, while they are a threat, are only useful in maintaining the midfield and have not resulted in the shots the Portland journey would like. That's got to change here in game number 2.
Yeah, the shot quality really hasn't been anything that the Chicago defense has had to really worry about. And Portland, for their effort, they've put up a pretty good fight in game number 1, but the defense is already starting to crack a Stallfly as a third.
Yeah, that's a deep commit from Spidey as he lunges, and that's what you gotta do. Last couple of seconds, had to go for the aggressive challenge, see if there was any hope of a last-second goal, last-second comeback. Not gonna happen here for game number 1, Chicago. You can see clearly why they dominated the upper bracket. This team is on fire.
The final seconds tick away in game number 1. It will be the Syndicate who go up early in this series and starting to look a little bit better for them, as they only require 3 more game wins to secure the Fettuccine League Championship.
Yep, absolute non-stop from the Chicago Syndicate. I mean, we saw them setting up in every opportunity it looks like Chicago had. It converted into a goal time and time again. I mean, Arteza looks like he was in front of the net leading the charge for the most part. Winter finding himself a couple passes to his name as well. Chicago. How on earth are Portland going to deal with this menace?
I mean, it's going to be a long journey for them, I feel like, especially because you can see at the bottom of the screen those advanced statistics heavily in favor of the Syndicate. But when you really look at the amount of shots and the amount of saves and the amount of demos and stuff like that, it looks a little bit closer than perhaps what we saw on the field in game number 1. So Chicago being able to effectively tilt the field in their favor, you got to keep those tires moving and got to be sure that your spacing is adequate in order to go up against a demo heavy team like that. So I like what I saw so far from the Syndicate and being able to match up with the play style of Portland.
And so far, we saw a lot of super wide rotations in game number 1 from Portland, especially when you've got Chaos looking to do some havoc on the offensive side of the pitch. That's going to leave your third kind of in a third spot, like a very deep third spot more often than not. And Portland Journey going to have to put in a little extra work to tighten those rotations, get themselves some more quality shot opportunities, get those third men involved. And that offense, here's Spidey, though, towards the backboard as he looks to open up game number 1.
Winter with the save. They'll look to follow it up to try and get things rolling for the Chicago Syndicate. Chaos Spike doing again what they do best, but this ball's going to be floating dangerously in front of the net, and they can't get it out of the way. Winter will capitalize for Chicago.
Yeah, that's... Well, you see two players tangled up on the near post. It's a recipe for disaster. Every day of the week, Pie in Chicago are going to punish that over and over. It has been 4 goals in a row, including game number 1 for Chicago. Portland have been on a complete and utter dry spell.
It really speaks to how aggressive the Chicago team is deciding to play, because you can see a couple seconds before that play develops, Chaos does get a demolition on the 3rd man of Chicago, which would force a lot of teams to kind of reevaluate if they want to send their 2nd man up for that ball and challenge them as well. But since they figure, hey, we've got additional coverage over the top because that guy's going to be spawning in behind me, I'm going to go ahead and make this challenge since the ball is available on the goal line of Portland. That's how Chicago ends up with that first goal. So congrats to them for being able to not only mitigate the decision making that Portland is throwing at them, but being able to continue putting balls in the back of the net.
Now, even with 0 boost, Chicago is still managing to keep possession. That is otherworldly from this team as Stubblify looking to threaten the shot. That goes nowhere though, and Arteza person in the midfield along with Winter to take advantage if need be. Spidey a bit awkward here on the near post, and it's a miracle he made that stop. But it's going to be unlikely that Chicago are staved off from this attempt. They're going to keep hammering down, and they're looking for a second here.
Buddy with a little bit of an unfortunate miss, but it's going to set up Chaos Spike to drive the ball further down the field. Spidey will get another chance at it. Truck will jump at the ball as well, which means it's now a 3v1. Chaos trying to avoid a demolition. They'll get bumped in the net. No shot forthcoming from the Syndicate, so we stay at a 1-goal margin. Spidey gets the ball played around them. Arteza looking for a teammate, Stallify in the midfield, but end up not finding that connection, and it will go all the way across.
Still, you can see these passing lanes beginning to open once again for Chicago. Portland always having to keep their heads on a swivel. You never know what the Chicago offense is going to do next. That's a big one, and Spidey gonna crack it open for the Portland journey. A couple minutes of a dry spell. Finally, the drought has ended.
And you could talk about the ineffectiveness relatively so far of the playstyle that Portland is running, but Chaos Spike, they're still forcing the Chicago team to respect that demolition ability, right? If you get close enough, they're still going to do everything they can to avoid getting bumped or getting demoed. So you play the defense just a little bit out of position, it kind of opens things up. That's exactly what we saw on that goal. Right
on, and now Portland looking to take matters into their own hands while they've got the momentum to do so. Just past halftime in regulation for game 2. That's a big 50 in the midfield for Chicago as they race on the side wall. Stallify, it's a 1v1 on Chaos Spike if you can find the dunk, but Chaos knows better this time around, sends it low past the first offensive attacker, and now Portland vying for possession in the midfield.
And the first goal for Portland in this series so far comes at a very critical juncture for them. If they're able to capitalize on the momentum, it's going to do wonders for them, but the ball is going to go right into their net. A little bit too overextended for Portland, and Chicago, they find a way.
And Arteza, I mean, what a bounce that was, to be honest. Right off the near post, he goes perfectly into his lap. Portland certainly going to be feeling the burn on that one a little bit. And as we get into game number 2, at least deeper into game number 2, now Portland really beginning to get stretched thin here. A minute and change, and a goal so desperately needed.
Really got to dig deep and find something if you're the Portland Journey, or as you're at risk of going 2-0 down in this series. It's not impossible to come back from, but certainly not something that they're unaccustomed to, right? Where they had multiple Game 7 comebacks so far in their playoff journey. They'd rather have even footing than having to come down or come back from a reverse sweep opportunity. That is for sure. Truck, no boost, trying to work their way across all 3 defenders for Chicago. Arteza, 1 touch, will leave it for Stallify. Stallify will take away the up man for Portland and leave it for Chaos Spike to try and get something going out of their corner.
And already Chicago looking strong here with this offense. That deep 3rd man is going to allow Chicago to keep possession for a few moments prior. Portland having to sneak in a few aggressive challenges here and there in order to get this 1-goal comeback, and that's not going to do the trick. Yeah, they knew they had to get aggressive, but at some point, you got to draw a line.
It's really interesting to see the difference in the deep man between Chicago and between Portland, right? It seems like Chicago has everything going for them in terms of their momentum and being able to know when to challenge as that 3rd man. It's also kind of indicative of Portland and how they're kind of giving the ball away, not necessarily trying to possess it as much as they could throughout the midfield. And really, it just put Truck in a bad spot as the last man back with no boost, trying to make the challenge on the back end for Portland. Now they find themselves down 2 goals, not an insurmountable task with just over 30 seconds remaining, but really don't want to find themselves in this position too often.
Yeah, you got to think if Portland want this comeback here in game number 2, a goal's got to happen in the next 10 seconds or so in order to make that a reality. And Truck trying to do just that. It's midfield as he looks for Chaos Spike. A shot opportunity might develop here for Spidey, but time ticking off the clock. Chicago now finding themselves with possession means that game number 2 might be it.
And perhaps one last opportunity for Chicago to get another goal on the board. The final 10 seconds on the screen. Portland will look to grab something to go through into game 3 with momentum, but it will not find the way in Chicago with a 2-0 series lead off the back of 2 very well-played games.
Yeah, easily scoring 3 goals a game for the past 2, and Portland only finding 1 over the past 10 minutes. It's not looking bright for the Portland journey. Their journey, so to speak, is coming to a slow halt in Chicago now. So once again, simply unstoppable. I mean, we saw some of the passing plays. We've seen Chicago's ability to dominate Portland, especially when Portland's on low boost. They know how to take advantage of those spots, and Chicago just do it again.
And we'll draw the attention to the extreme right column of this stats page. You can see 2 demos, both for Chaos Spike, on behalf of the Portland Journey, but Chicago actually out physical this Portland Journey team, Stallify, with 3 demos by themselves. So it's interesting to see that kind of playstyle going the way of Chicago. In fact, getting a little bit of their own medicine is Portland in this scenario. You got to wonder, at what point do you try to make an adjustment, because the way that they're trying to operate their offense isn't quite working as effectively as they might hope.
Right on for game number 3, Portland. It's all on the line here. To lose now would be an absolute disaster, and to face a match point where this Truck to open on the scoreboard right off the rip, right off the kickoff. Portland Journey, the first time this series they've had a lead here, Pi.
And I think this is exactly what they're going to have to do. They're going to have to try and elevate the ball and get the defense for Chicago a little bit more uncomfortable and a little bit more out of place. We haven't really seen that so far in this series. It's been a little bit more grounded, a little bit more low aerial type of things so far from this Portland Journey team, and really from the Chicago team as well. So you're going to have to utilize all the space in 3 dimensions, and that's exactly what Chicago is going to be able to do to pull one right back.
I facepalmed a little bit on my desk here, but my goodness, what a demolition attempt from Stallify. Forces Chaos to go early in Chicago, just like that. I mean, they get the job done once again. It's 2 straight kickoff-esque goals right off the bat here for game number 3, as both teams duking it out in the midfield once again.
It's really difficult for Portland, because right as you feel like they've grabbed a little bit of momentum, Chicago's just able to wrest it away and get right back to an even playing field. So everything that they really fought for, any kind of mid-series adjustments that they made in between games to garner that kickoff goal, really ends up going completely out the window as soon as Stallify is able to find another gap in the Portland defense. It's just a little bit too much of an overcommit, and unfortunately for Chaos, you just find yourself on the wrong end of a 50-50.
That is absolutely horrendous. I mean, Chicago, a strong 50 right into the back of the net. That is a worst case scenario for the Portland Journey. And although Chaos wasn't in the worst spot, they're in the midfield. There was 1 split second where he made a slightly wrong turn, and I was like, yeah, that did it. It was just 1 decision, 1 split millisecond, and that's what you play for in the grand finals. You win or lose off these moments, and this time the moment doesn't work out for the Portland Journey. Chicago, though, another lead to their name. Not the first time this series they can say that.
Yeah, we talked extensively about in other series just the way that the ball bounces, and sometimes the ball doesn't bounce your way, but somehow, some way, this ball's going to float in for Spidey, and the Portland Journey get one right back. They weren't getting the rolls earlier. They had a couple unfortunate bounces off of their own woodwork, but they really just get a gift from the Chicago defense right here.
And they don't mind that one bit, especially after seeing that 50 roll into the back of their own net. Chicago and Portland now dead equal here for game number 3. Still Chicago trying to look for that match point, trying to close it out while they've got the momentum to their name. A big one downfield, Arteza. Winter again for the follow-up, and that's going to force Spidey in a bit of a tough spot. Has to use a ton of boost just to get past that midfield line, and that should give Chicago Another good look at possession here in the midfield.
Really difficult because you could see the Portland Journey had all three players on the same real third of the field if you divide the line going vertically up and down. And that kind of opens things up on the other side. If Chicago can manage to switch the ball, it will go over to the far side here. Chaos Spike actually going to be first to the ball. A nice little air carrying, requiring 2 players for Chicago to commit. That's going to be exactly what's needed. You're going to have to force odd man rushes, and unfortunately, it's a 2v1 going the other way. Truck able to make the save and keep the ball out, and still an even score line for the moment. But Chicago, they've got intent. They've got other ideas. They got a demolition on the goal line, but can't get it over the last man.
That was almost so dirty from Style5. Fakes the first defender in the midfield, in Portland for standing on their last heels. It's a miracle that one stayed out of the net, to be honest. Halftime here for Game 3 in Chicago, continuing to bear down, but things slowed down a little bit in the midfield as both teams now beginning to settle in for the long road. They realize it's a battle of attrition. No more mistakes can be made from this point onwards. Truck, what a save.
And 50% in, and it still won't go for Chicago. Great defense being displayed by Portland. They certainly do not want to go down 3-0 in this series. It wouldn't bode well for their championship hopes. Now, Spidey collects the ball, though have to go all the way back towards their own corner. They don't have any boost, and they weren't able to collect that corner 100 yet. They'll have to circle around, forego the ball for the moment. Winter with another shot will go well wide of the far post. Chaos Spike takes control around to the opposite side corner. Style5 is going to launch a high ball. Spidey going to have to make contact, and they will. Arteza with an off-ball demo, trying to start the cycle for the Syndicate.
And what a phenomenal show of defense here from the Portland Journey. Despite being stuck in their own half for the better part of the last 30 seconds, they've still got a hold on Spidey. What on earth is that touch as he finds it well past the midfield line? Gives Portland another look at life, some time to breathe as well. Chicago, my goodness, they put on a ton of pressure. They're constricting like a, a snake. I guess a snake should constrict. Oh my goodness, Chaos. There's a third.
I'm right with the defender on this one. I'm assuming Chaos, as they come screaming in from the midfield, they're going to put that one right at the near post. But hey, a little bit of a change-up. Winter finds the ball, actually gets played right behind him over their shoulder. And really, for the first time in this series, it's late, but Portland has a lead, and see if they can enable to build off of it. Arteza off the kickoff across the Style5. It's a great infield pass, and that is a fantastic response from the Syndicate.
Holy moly, the vision here from Arteza, that is on the dot, on the nose of Style5, but you gotta feel for the Portland Journey. They've had 2 1-goal leads over the course of game number 3. They have been instantly ripped away. That's gotta hurt a little bit.
The build-up for Portland, it took so long, and it was so well executed that it's like, okay, maybe they finally found something to break away from this Chicago team, but right off of the kickoff, they find a way to bring it right back, and it's now the Syndicate rolling with a little bit of momentum and perhaps looking to steal away this game as we move later into regulation. Arteza, high, plays it over Spidey. They've got Winter with a redirect opportunity, cannot make contact. Truck across to the near side, leaves it for Chaos Spike. Actually, Style5 able to intercept on the sidewall. It's going to put Spidey a little bit under the gun. It'll play it to the relative safety, but Winter is lurking, trying to play the role of spoiler. In fact, give Portland a little bit more of their own medicine, trying to get them away and open things up on the back end. But the final 10 seconds on the screen could be staring down the barrel of our first overtime. And Portland, they might have an opportunity to win it at the death. One more chance for the Journey, perhaps, but the ball will touch the ground. Looked like it might have been able to ramp up for one more chance. OT, game 3.
And if the nerves weren't hitting before, they certainly are now, especially for the Portland Journey. They know one mistake means a match point for the Chicago Syndicate. It means having to reverse sweep, and then on top of that, have to bracket reset after the fact. So that's a whole nother road with Portland Journey. I don't know if they're ready for that, but first got to start by winning out this overtime. Here's Winter, though, although backwards, does manage to find it on target, and just like that, overtime comes to a close.
It's self-inflicted wounds for the Portland Journey. You can see Winter, they're doing their best to put the ball in a defensible position, but I think that ends up going in 50'd off a Portland car into their own net, and they can't get around to defend it. Chaos Spike with limited resources off of that first offensive push for Portland, trying to get back, wasn't able to do so. And again, we see Chicago winning the physical play battle, and it's paying dividends for them.
Also, a bit of a funny tidbit. Chicago, over the course of the past 3 games, has always scored 3 goals in regulation. Now, of course, this time different. Ended up with 4 goals, 1 in that post-regulation, but bit of a funny one here. Portland Journey, though, despite so much strong efforts over the course of game number 3, I mean, we saw that passing play. That was the moment you kind of said, yeah, Portland Journey are really starting to put together the pieces. All those 1-goal leads were really for not much at all.
And you can see the scoring very evenly distributed from Portland in this game. It's a very complete team game from them, yet it still was not enough to overcome the Chicago Syndicate offense. And I think it just goes back to the numerous leads, like you said, where Portland was able to grab the momentum. They were able to get one on the board, but they just could not find a way to keep Chicago off of it for long enough for it to make a difference. And the ability for that quick strike ability for Chicago has been so instrumental for them in this series so far. Just being able to weather the storm physically. This is not exactly what we thought might happen. We thought, Chaos would have just been able to run wild across the Chicago team and keep them on their back foot. But the Syndicate, for all of the talking that we did, they've been able to really out-physical the Journey. I don't think that's what we saw coming at all.
Certainly not was expected in the least. And also, real quick before game number 4 gets underway, you got to give Truck his flowers. I mean, saw some ridiculous defense from him in game number 3. You mentioned that half-in, half-out ball that Truck barely kept up, but he's not going to be able to keep this one out. Chicago Syndicate once again strike first.
And I'm not really sure what's going on here. It's off of the back of another demolition for Chicago. That's just a great corner double read for the Syndicate. That's more of a higher level play than we might see necessarily in Fettuccine League, but these players, they certainly know how to get things done, and they've been able to do so all season. Well, certainly in the playoff bracket as well for the Syndicate. And a fake coming out from Arteza gets the first player to bite. Second one, not so much.
But a very brilliantly executed kickoff from the Chicago Syndicate. They sent 2 up to the kickoff, managed to pinch it nearly underneath the top bins, and as a result, they've had possession ever since. Time started ticking down on that kickoff. Now Chicago on the defensive end. Here's Stawafai. He's got Arteza to work with on his left side if he can get a pass off Winter as well. First past the half-field line as he might look for a demolition or such on his rotation outwards. That's not the touch Portland were looking for, though. And Chicago trying to get themselves closer to another shot opportunity that's straight down, and Truck once again makes the stop.
And the good news for Portland is that they do, in fact, have the remaining time of this game number 4 with which to score 1 goal. They're going to need at least 2 if they want to continue on with their championship hopes. And so far, the things have been trending in the right direction for them offensively. They were shut out game number 1, just 1 goal in game 2, but a better showing from them in game number 3 still so far left off of the board as well. Currently in game number 4 and under siege as well is their net. Finally going to be able to get a little bit of a breakaway period, but both players have to turn off because they don't have the resources.
And now Arteza looking to get over the last defender, but Portland Journey so far staying strong here, keeping themselves within striking distance, but every shot has been hard-earned. It's certainly been an uphill battle, but man, Chicago getting this much closer to fully sweeping the grand finals. That is a statement certainly to make, especially like you mentioned. It'll be their first championship since Season 9, and they're coming out swinging.
And you know what? I was just about to make a point about how well the offense for Chicago was performing, the shot deficit that we saw from them as well. I mean, you still 1 shot from Portland, but it's going to be the 1 shot that matters. It's a little bit of an own goal from Chicago. We'll discount that for whatever it is, but the way that Chicago's been playing so far, I mean, it's just an outplay, but the kickoff goals keep coming, and they keep making the difference.
And once again, it's another 1-goal lead for the Portland Journey. I'm sitting here with my fingers crossed a little bit, because every time we've seen a 1-goal lead from the Journey, we've seen how quickly it gets snatched away. So I'm watching this kickoff with a bit of apprehension. Halftime in regulation for game 4, and they fake it as the Chicago Syndicate looking to instantly make that comeback.
Well, they almost executed it well. Arteza just got a little bit too far behind the ball, not quite able to center it the way that their teammate might have liked, as they were waiting and lurking all the way across the field. Going to set Portland up potentially for another goal to go through. It's a lofted shot towards the back post, but easily defended by Chicago. Winter with no boost. All they can do is ring it around the corner. Infield for Truck. A relatively open net to shoot at, as Arteza went for the squishy save right outside their outstretched Octane. And Portland, I think, their largest lead of the series.
You have 2-goal lead, certainly nothing to scoff at. Then Chicago Syndicate, probably the first time this series they've had to work from the back foot, and we'll see how that affects the team. Although I can't imagine it'll affect them that much. They're still leading this series by a very sizable margin. Now the Portland Journey looking to get one more for good measure. Spidey's up quick, a bit awkward here on the near post as Chaos take to the skies, and he can't sink that one back into the net, but Portland Journey already, they've turned the lights on here in game number 4. Hopefully they can hold on though.
It just seems like whenever Chicago needs a goal, they're able to just pull one out of the hat. And this is a fantastic outfield play. Stallify with the great redirect over the last player remaining in net for Portland. And really, there's not a whole lot you can do there unless you challenge the ball a little bit earlier, because once you get caught on the goal line with no momentum and a player already hitting the ball right at your net, it's not a good position to be in as the last man. They can still hold on to the fact that they've got a 1-goal advantage, but the way that Chicago has played so far in this series, got to be a little bit more questionable on whether or not Portland can hold this lead.
Yeah, once again, Portland Journey, that 1-goal lead. It's if you're a Portland Journey fan, if you watched up to this point, you're gonna be a little nervous, that's for sure. Chicago though, continuing to hammer down on Arteza. He's been instrumental. Spidey though, from way downtown. That's going to be good for a 4th.
You know what? I think they'll take it. I mean, it's certainly not the most conventional goal of all time, but with the confidence that's been exuded so far from the Syndicate, if they push up just a little bit too far, it's going to provide that space over the top, and Spidey was able to find that with everybody so far involved in the play for Chicago. And again, they're pushed up very far. Arteza going to be the first man back and actually be able to find their way onto the ball. 2 players committing for Portland, and their 2-goal lead reestablished for the moment. Last shot turned aside by the entirety of the Portland Journey team. Truck, last defender back for the Journey, able to make the save, and now Portland playing with a little bit more pace.
You can also see some of these kickoff strategies from Chicago. They've been employing them a lot more here in game 4 compared to the last couple of games. Here's the passes, Arteza over toward the backboard. Stallify, he finds the read. Oh no, it's off the crossbar in their own net. That is a disaster.
And normally I'd say yeah, but that one was going to be going in. It's a great read from Stallify. They get a little bit of help from the Portland defense, just like I guess that Portland got a little bit of help from the Chicago defense on one of their earlier goals. But having that 2-goal cushion, and looks like it's going to be very important as we come down to the wire. Now just a 1-shot game again between these two teams. Chaos Spike trying to force the ball middle from the near side corner. Stallify, a great bit of possession on the ground game to get it past one, but they lose control at the midfield, and Spidey will make him pay.
A bit of a sigh of relief here for the Portland Journey as Spidey punches one in, and that's surely going to be curtains for game number 4. But still, Chicago once again 3 goals in regulation. That's a bit of a recurring theme we're seeing here. Truck looking to punch in another one here at the tail end of regulation. But the Portland Journey, my goodness, what a way for them to flip the switch.
And this is going to be the first of quite a few games that are needed from Portland Journey in a case like this. I mean, if you're Chicago, I don't think you're too concerned that you ended up dropping this game with the series lead that they've been able to garner, and especially the way that they've been playing. But if this ends up being a turning point in this series, we're going to have to come back and evaluate that a little bit later and be like, okay, so this is where Portland started playing like the Portland team that we've seen so far in the rest of these playoffs. And again, not to harp on this point a little bit too much, but the physical play firmly going in favor of Chicago. So something's changed on behalf of Portland. We could still see Chaos going for a couple of demos that they got in this game number 4, but something they've been able to adjust just a little bit more from the game plan I think that they had coming in, and it's taken them a little bit of time to kind of adjust to that game style that they had to change to, but first game win for them so far in this series.
I'll tell you what's changed player squared. His name is Spidey, and he's been an absolute tear in game number 4. Came off with a hat-trick truck as well. A ridiculous 7 shots to his name. Now the Portland Journey looking to hammer that point home as we get into game number 5, but Portland can't afford to get complacent here. One misstep, and that's the end of the road.
Portland going to have to continue right where they left off if they want to have a chance to extend this series any further. And the road only gets more difficult from there, as they'd have to not only win this series to reset the bracket, but then win another best of 7. So for all the difficulties that they've had in the early part of this series, it only gets magnified as you move to another best of 7. But for now, they got to take care of business and take care of what's in front of them. Chaos Spike with a read off of the sidewall. Winter will launch a shot on, saved away. Chaos Spike is upfield. The redirect. Stallify. They keep it out. Very aware defense from Chicago to keep us level.
Oh man, beautifully played from the Portland Journey though. They're connecting on some of these passing plays, and Chicago has already been doing some of that all night long. Winter and Arteza in particular have been finding the connections. And Arteza feels like he's involved in pretty much every passing play Chicago has had, at least in this series. As Stallify finds a 50 over to the corner. Arteza comes in quick as he tries to get into a shooting spot here for Chicago. That's not going to happen this time around.
Ooh.
Truck, a redirect from just past the half-field line. Portland Journey, what has gotten into them?
And this is exactly the style of play that I think they've wanted to play from the outset of this series. You get a little bit of space from the demolitions that open things up in the midfield. You send one player long. You try to find that player upfield with a pass from the back line, and you get a redirect opportunity at the net. You already had one of those for Chaos Spike earlier in the game. They finally get one to go through with Truck, and Chaos Spike gets themselves on the board for the second for Portland.
Then once again, Portland Journey on a tear, picking up right where they left off at the end of game number 4. All the momentum to their name, and then some Chicago. Left a little bit at a loss for words. I mean, they dominated the early part of the series, and now they're a little bit stumped. Didn't expect Portland to come out swinging this hard, and Chicago now having to pick up the pieces.
And like we said before, at the end of the last game, I don't think they're going to remain in that stunned state for too long. We've already seen exactly what they're capable of. Stallify trying to show us exactly why with another backboard double tap opportunity, but that one they are not able to make contact with. The ball floating directionlessly at the midfield line until Arteza thought about making a challenge on the play. Chaos Spike trying to bump them off. Spidey not able to make contact either. They will flip away. Truck and Chaos Spike combine on the near side wall for Portland. Spidey with one more play. Chaos Spike trying to find them with a back pass as well, but really running out of options on the offensive end with no boost for Spidey.
Still, the fact that they're able to find some of these passes, even with no boost, is pretty remarkable. Now Spidey beginning to threaten a shot as well as the ball floating in the midfield. It's a racing Chaos. Can't quite get there. Stallify cuts that 2-goal lead in half.
And really, you're expecting Truck, I think, to make that touch in the midfield, which is what the entire possession for Portland hinges on. But it's a great touch from Winter to keep it away from Portland hands, and but by then it's just a race and to see who has the most boost. Chaos Spike, unfortunately, on the losing end of that calculation. Winter from the ceiling, trying to get things into a better position for Chicago. Now back to a one-shot opportunity as we pass through halftime. 2 players on the side wall for Portland. They will both commit, and they're both in the net, out of the play. Truck, the last defender back, trying to buy time for their teammates to get back, and eventually they will.
And once again, Portland Journey continuing to play a deep third, trying to get some of these big clears out to relieve some of that pressure that Chicago has built up for the better part of the last 30 seconds or so. But looks like they've finally broken out that pressure boiler. It's about to pop if Portland didn't clear it up real soon. Ball dangerous in the midfield as 2 players from Chicago commit to deep. And finding some of these bumps as well, but a bit awkward here on the near post. Chicago take care of business though.
Yeah, Truck, even with no boost, finding themselves as a menace to the Chicago defense. Arteza is going to have a difficult read, but they will be able to make contact. Truck cycling through for the Portland Journey. It's outfield in the middle available. Chaos Spike is going to be able to walk it in.
Chaos. I mean, beautiful placement from him as he shoots low. He knows the pre-jumper in winter, and he was like, I got one place to put it, so I'm going to slam it home. Portland Journey, it's another 2-goal lead for them, and we saw how clutch that 2-goal lead was at the tail end of game number 4, where things were getting pretty close to say the least. Portland, going to be nice to have this one underneath their belt.
And finally, I say finally, but it really started a couple games ago in game 3 where Portland started to get the offense going just a little bit more. They weren't able to win on that effort, but game 4 was a little bit of a different story. And so far in game number 5, they appear to have the winning edge until Winter takes it to the ground. A fantastic individual display of control gets Chicago right back within 1.
I mean, he did a full 180 basically as he slides it past the last defender. And Spidey, if he had a couple of boosts there, could have potentially snuck in a challenge, but even that is a bit of a stretch. And now Chicago within 1. We saw them within 1 so many times in game number 4. Portland were able to maintain that 1-goal lead, even extended at the tail end there. But we'll see if that remains to be the case here in game 5. Chicago don't look so stun-locked anymore as they're beginning to heat up once again.
It's still just a couple defensive liabilities for both teams. I mean, Portland was able to take advantage of it earlier, and now Chicago working their way back into this game. A couple overcommits, a couple of misplaced possessive items for the defenses for Portland as well led to that recent goal for Chicago. And now with less than 30 seconds to play, Spidey going to have to hold the play up once again to allow their teammates to cycle back behind them. Truck with boost behind Spidey. Spidey will get it over 1, but it's in the region of Arteza, who doesn't make contact. Unfortunately for Portland, Spidey ended up with no boost. Otherwise, that might have been another goal to go through.
And now Chicago looking to force this overtime stall fight, trying to go the distance all by himself, but it's looking like the ball might touch the ground, or at least that's what Portland are trying to do here. Chicago keep the play alive. Here's Winter as he dives deep, but no cigar in the Portland Journey. Take a crucial second game to their name. Now, Pi, I'm getting real close to becoming a believer.
It might be a little bit more convincing, but I'm not quite there yet. I mean, yes, we've seen a couple good games from Portland. They've finally been able to find some sort of semblance of offensive structure, but I still think Chicago has the edge until proven otherwise. I mean, they've dropped 2 games in a row now. They've both been relatively close contests. At least game 4 was a 1-goal affair up until the very end of that game. But now it seems like everything's starting to come together for Portland. You can see the physical play as well starting to creep back into the mix a little bit, and it's coming with goals. And that's the most important thing, like we alluded to earlier, is the fact that they can play that play style all they want. But if they were being held off of the score sheet, it's not in their best interest. But so far, Portland have been able to get that up man and get the ball to them for redirect opportunities like we haven't seen prior to game number 5. So they forced the game 6. That's great. They got a couple more on their way to go.
There's one major statistic, though. It's the first time this series that Chicago has not scored 3 goals in regulation. Could it be the turning point? Has Portland finally begun to break down some of that menacing Chicago offense? Winter 0 boost right off the rip as he looks to threaten the double tap right off the kickoff. Portland, though, it's already looking lights out for them. Truly end-to-end stuff. A slugfest on the pitch.
And Chaos, I think, wanted to do a little bit better with that opportunity. They ended up slotting it towards the far side. Open side was a little bit closer to the near post, but Chicago might have ended up getting back in time anyway, and it ends up being an open goal for Arteza off of the rebound opportunity. Truck playing it just a little bit too far away in the middle of the field. That allows for Arteza to come in. Nobody in position for Portland, as Spidey was the first player and ended up missing their initial challenge, putting everybody out of commission for the Portland Journey. And now Chicago, they're right back where they feel most comfortable, and that's in the lead.
Yes, the first time in a little bit that we've seen Chicago take that 1-goal lead, and like we talked about a little while back, we have not seen Chicago go to a Game 7 in this playoffs, and it looks like they're trying to keep that trend through the grand finals. Now here's the Portland Journey on the defensive end. Spidey commits deep into the corner. Truck there to keep the play alive, but things have fallen apart a little bit into the corner as Chicago trying to pick up the pieces.
And you can see on the side of Portland, no boost, and Chaos is going to have to go all the way to the other side of the field, Chicago side of the field, in fact, to grab some sort of resource ability, Arteza, they're able to make contact and keep the ball away from the Portland offense. Spidey grabs the midfield 100, forcing an infield for Truck. It's an easily defendable shot away for Chicago, and Winter once again showing their prowess as keeping the ball low. Trying to hold things up at the midfield line for Chicago. Truck 50s with Stallify. That might be in danger of going over the shoulder of Winter, but they're placed in the right spot.
And still these passes beginning to develop for the Portland Journey. Here's Spidey up quick. Truck is probably going to find this follow-up, but it does take a little bit of time. That's going to allow some of the bumps to get through, though, and you can see Portland poking Chicago out of the backboard, forcing them into these tough spots. Now Winter's got no boost to continue this play. Oh, no. That's certainly not the touch Spidey was looking for, but it looks to be safe in the corner for the time being, as Portland taking a little time to regroup, but they can't afford to take too long.
It's not quite as safe as that missed touch. Kind of threw everything off as Truck had respawned and was initially the first player to go at that ball, trying to force it out. Ends up getting played back into the corner, and limited resources again for the Portland Journey mean they're having a difficult time getting the ball out of their own end. And Arteza, unfortunately, not able to get around the save. Truck finds the opening in the Chicago defense to make this a tie game.
I will admit that was a pretty goofy, like, 180 kind of maneuver from Spidey in the midfield to set that one up from his teammate. But, you know, if it works, it works. And that Portland Journey dead equal here for game number 6. And the nerves at a sky. Oh, no, off the kickoff. Chicago once again take away all that hard work.
And they sent the house. I believe they sent 2 players on this kickoff, and that's exactly what is going to be the difference maker, is it get ping-ponged right into a pinch into the bottom corner of the Portland Journey net. Not even close to having enough time to react to that ball before it rolls into the net. And Chicago strike back right off of the kickoff, reestablishing this 1-goal lead right as we go through halftime. Now across to the corner. Chicago looking to add to their lead. Winter lets the ball float over their heads. Stallify trying to hold things up at the midfield line. Not able to quite do so, and now it's a potentially odd man rush for Chicago. No boost until Stallify is able to grab that corner and take away the players of Portland. And it'll be a little bit slow getting this one out.
Chicago, though, once again, that kickoff coming in so clutch. Truck muscles it past the last defender, and the Portland Journey equalize yet again. But mark my words, we're going to see a fake kickoff here. Chicago has been loving those fake kickoffs, those double kickoffs, you name it. You can tell they've been practicing them over the course of the season. I anticipate they're going to pull it out here on the diagonal. It's going to be a little tougher than normal, but Arteza is going to find a clean beat anyways.
Didn't look like much of a fake to me. It looked like they decided to opt for a more traditional kickoff, but I'm sure if there is another kickoff, they'll be pulling it out of their bag of tricks. And they may not end up needing it if they end up going forward in regulation. Stallify, another shot defended away by Truck. Arteza next up on the ball, playing a little bit more indirect than perhaps we've seen the Chicago Syndicate thus far. They still find themselves in this game. Spidey with a lofted ball, really from the midfield stripe. Trying to test the defense of this Chicago Syndicate team, but they've answered almost every question so far that they've been able to be on the field for. Another demolition trying to open space up for the Portland Journey, but they've got to work their way back from their own end.
Now, overtime in the horizon, a little bit distant, though. The last time we saw an overtime, of course, we saw the Chicago Syndicate come out cleanly on top within the first couple seconds, but they're looking to close it out in regulation as Truck can't make the stop. Chaos finds a big one past the midfield line, and although the Portland Journey get a little bit of breathing room, that's not going to be enough to break them out of their own half just yet. Spidey's going to have to use a decent amount of boost just getting it past the midfield line as 2 players commit. Chicago, this is a massive opening for them. Truck low and awkward on the near post.
And they actually get a decent touch that sends it well away from the field. Winter almost able to return the ball to sender on net and on target. The final 30 seconds of what could be a decisive game number 6. Slowly slipping away. Stallify with a feels backflip, man. Actually ends up faking out Chaos Spike as they were certain they were going to get a touch on that ball. Ends up floating towards the Chicago end. Truck with a high ball pops it up for Spidey, who thought about going for it initially. Didn't seem like they thought they had the boost with which to beat out the Chicago offensive player. Now Arteza will go over their shoulder, just off target as time expires, and now it's an overtime to determine Portland's fate.
Chicago, not once in the playoffs have they seen a Game 7. This could very well change here. Portland journey. Find that one necessary goal to keep them alive. It's all on the line, and the nerves are certainly sky high. Chicago, though, marching from the corner. He's got Stylify in the middle with full boost, and he takes off for the shot. Portland journey, though, staying alive with what limited resources they have. But Chicago continuing to hammer down and bring the pain.
Teza gets it over one. Chaos Spike, they're the last defender. They end up getting the ball played over their head as well, setting up Chicago for a potential game-winning goal opportunity. But again, the physical play for Portland shuts things down. Truck going end to end. Spidey with the opening that Truck provides. They stay alive. We go to Game 7.
Portland journey this much closer to the reverse sweep, and Truck, I mean, that bump over on the far post absolutely annihilating the last defender. No chance that Chicago is going to be able to keep that one out of their own net. Portland journey, though, I mean, you mentioned it. If we saw the comeback, we were going to point at the Game 4 and say, yep, this is where it started happening, and boy, it's been going. It's been going well.
And I like to see the ascension that Truck has had throughout this entire series. Again, started a little bit slow for the entire Portland team, but they found their game within these last 3 contests. Things have turned around in their favor. And now if I'm Chicago, I'm going to be looking back and thinking, what did we change? Where did we go wrong? What have we started doing differently that has allowed Portland to get back into this series? Because it is now 3 straight games that Portland has been able to come out and find a way to stick it to this Chicago Syndicate team. Now, the last 2 contests have been 1-goal affairs, both 3-2. That one required an overtime period with which to decide the winner. Now we go to a decisive Game 7. So if I'm Chicago, I'm thinking, man, we got to get back to what was working earlier, and we got to do it quick.
And here in game number 7, the Portland journey, that confidence is certainly brimming at this point. You know you're so close to that bracket reset. Or also, by the way, now's a good time to mention, if that bracket reset does become a reality, there will be a little bit of an intermission in between games to allow a little bit of a break here. I think the allotted time is 10 minutes. And so Portland journey, if they win this game, don't be surprised to see the stream going to a little bit of a break. Chicago, though, trying to prevent that from happening as they look for the opening goal.
They almost find it off of a great flick from Winter. Chaos Spike nesting on the corner boost. They will eventually find it, playing it really dangerously across the face of their own net. Truck is more than apt to the task of sending it away and actually running further onto the ball. Chaos Spike is going to have an opportunity shut down at the point of attack by Stylify, and that's going to break Arteza. On the other side, Truck once again being called into action. It will float over their head, and Stylify gets the opening goal.
And just like that, Chicago strike first, but we saw them score first back in Game 6 as well, and we were kind of thinking, yeah, Chicago might have woken up from that dry spell, but we also saw how game number 6 ended, and now the Portland journey, once again looking to answer back, but they've had no problem doing that in past games, but now the test is truly being put to them.
And really, I think the difference maker, at least in the past 3 games for Portland, is that they've been able to keep it close, right? There haven't been any multi-goal leads that I can recall for Chicago that they haven't been able to necessarily put away or put this Portland journey team to bed. So as long as they can keep hanging around and keep it within a 1-goal margin, they're always going to be dangerous. And like you said, they definitely pointed that in the prior game. Now Arteza across the corner, looking for the near post. Demolitions occur right off camera and everywhere on the field. 2v2 scenario, but we're right back to an even side. Winter finds the ball on the hood of their car. Chaos Spike with an early challenge sends it back to the Portland corner, where Truck is going to have to make yet another save.
And you can certainly tell the pace of play has sped up a decent amount here in Game 7 as both teams really looking to get speedy, fast challenges to the ball. These demolitions as well, taking a much greater effect as both teams trying to catch each other out, poke a hole in any way possible. Truck, that's a big flick downfield. He did see Spidey initially, but that pass not going to come to fruition as Arteza looking for Winter. Winter going deep into the corner for this challenge. Actually hands it off to Stylify. Chicago Syndicate holding on to that 1-goal lead, but not too much possession game being played here, Pi, as both teams looking for pure speed.
Yeah, they're really bypassing the midfield. And like you said, with the pace of play picking up, I'm wondering if that's going to actually favor the teams that actually get more demos, because they become a little bit more disruptive, I think, once the gameplay picks up speed. There's a lot more at stake in terms of the holes being generated on the defensive end that players aren't necessarily going to be able to fill once the gameplay picks up. Here we are, Portland, trying to work their way out of a defensive logjam. Spidey with a lot of boost has one opportunity for an air carry. They won't be able to get it over the first defender. Chaos Spike trying to hold up until Truck can get cycled around behind them. Stallify trying to add a second for the Chicago team, ends up getting sent across to the near side.
And now Chicago, they've kept pretty much a good lock on this possession for the better part of the last 30 seconds or so. Chaos, without any boost in the tank, he's not going to be able to clear it, but he does manage to get a solid possession nearly around the last defender. Spidey barred down, beautiful.
You can't score a goal without hitting the crossbar first, and I'm sure Spidey's got that in the back of their mind. They just barely get enough over that ball. I mean, they really had to because of the angle that the defense took. Winter was right underneath that ball, so if they get any more over it than that, they run the risk of actually 50ing it off of the backboard and away. So a great job recognizing the defense by Spidey and getting Portland back in this game. We're at risk of yet another kickoff goal as Chicago off of the rip, already seemingly having possession. Spidey going to send it the length of the field, trying to go infield for Truck, but it's going to go well wide and well out of play.
And now the Portland journey not quite out of the woods just yet as Stallify forces it back central. It's a race and both teams come up empty. A bit awkward here on the far post, but Chicago still continuing to march down. There's one defender left. It's Spidey with no boost, and he still makes the stop high.
Truck going down the other end. Chaos Spike had intent to clear them out of the way, but the pace of play, like you said, just picked up a little bit too much. The ball got away from Portland, but it may not matter as Chaos Spike finds pay dirt.
My goodness, it's 2 bar down shots in a row for the Portland journey. Their shooting has been absolutely on fire in this game number 7. Picture perfect in Chicago, trailing by 1.
The momentum firmly on the side of the Portland journey, but we've all seen exactly what the kickoff provides. This time it's Portland with a clean win. Truck trying to add to the lead for Portland. Instead, it's going to be Spidey off of the near post. Chicago able to catch back up. Limited resources as Stallify collecting small pads inside, and an absolutely monster jam from Arteza on the goal line of Portland. Truck not able to get the ball into a safe position. They've equalized.
And Arteza, I mean, the confidence to go on the near post, go for the dunk, especially when you know the counterattack is potentially looming here from the Portland journey. That is another level of confidence for the Chicago Syndicate, but still, overtime now beginning to loom on the horizon. A Game 7 overtime. You have felt nerves like none before for both teams, really, especially for Portland at this point. Now Truck infield. Chaos probably going to make a turn for this off the sidewall with a little bit of boost to his name, but not going to be able to get there in time, and now every touch counts in the last couple of seconds here, Pi.
Every touch counts and every second matters if you want to win this in regulation. The final 15 seconds on the screen. Chaos Spike from their own goal gets one touch away, only as far as midfield. Truck, they've got upfield. Chaos Spike is lurking. They're trying to find a demo. They will connect. It opens things up potentially. Spidey not able to get the ball and force it through. Instead, they'll have to be content with a demolition, and it's OT in Game 7.
What more could you ask for? It's all on the line here, and now at this point, Chicago's got to be wondering whether or not that upper bracket advantage has been all for nothing. The Portland journey, a strong performance, but it's got to culminate here. Now Chaos, no boost as he fakes it for Truck, allowing them to open up the playing field a little bit more. Arteza from the corner needs to keep all the boost to his name, make sure that Portland have absolutely none to do with it. If they can get this advantage going, they're in a strong spot to take the series.
Can't quite force the ball out of this corner. Spidey and Truck now, the last defender, having to hold up and buy time for Chaos Spike to run down the middle of the field, collecting all of those small pads. Eventually that 100 pad on the near side of the ball. Winter will find it across and will actually defer for Stallify, who grabs that 100 pad. Chaos ends up playing the ball infield for Winter, but they can't quite put that on target just yet, so they'll have to settle for another end around from the corner. Arteza climbing the ladder. Stallify finds it on their hood, but Chaos takes them off of the field. Truck with momentum might actually have thought of taking that ball over, but they end up getting taken off of the field as well. Lots of demolitions occurring in this opening minute.
And I can certainly see the nerves taking effect. It is some panicked gameplay, some goofy misses for sure, but the demolitions, like you said, just on and off around the pit truck. No boost to his name. He's going to have to look for a big clear, looking for Chaos as Chaos punches another hole into the Chicago midfield, but ball stagnating in the midfield for a little bit of breathing time for both teams. That's just what they need here to regroup a little bit, especially for Portland. I mean, they've been running on fumes for the better part of the last 15 seconds or so.
Finally able to grab a couple hundred pads between Spidey and Truck. Spidey able to win the initial challenge, looking to tap it middle. Chaos Spike had pre-jumped for that ball, so they're not able to get the connection. Arteza up. Plays it only as far as the midfield line. Truck is there to intercept the Winter with a long ball that is, in fact, on target, and this is going to be dangerous for Chicago. Chaos Spike able to climb on their own backboard and mitigate the danger, but still sent right back in. Chicago starting to apply the pressure.
Feels like that pressure is only short-lived, though. It's truly been end-to-end stuff here. Both teams trying to look for an early shot, trying to close it out, because the longer this overtime goes, the more fatigue sets in and the more those nerves continue to build. It's best to close it out if you're the Portland Journey right now. Send it to a game or a bracket reset. Get yourself a little bit more breathing room to work with. Spidey over to the left wall. Truck looking for an aggressive follow-up. He's not going to find it, though. Luckily, Winter this time around has absolutely no boost to work with. And Chaos stretches for the clear. He's been a menace on the defense and in the midfield, finding those demolitions. And if he can keep up, oh, Chaos nearly connects on that demo.
And if they would have, it would have been the game winner, but instead we go back. Chicago trying to press their attack, as all three sitting pretty with a large quantity of boost, as Arteza picked up the opposite field 100, and they've got the shot. They got it in. Winter with the redirect of a lifetime wins the game for the Chicago Syndicate, and they avoid the sweep, they avoid the bracket reset, and they win their first championship in Fettuccine League, their first since Season 9.
And the Chicago Syndicate, to be honest, no one ever had a doubt except for the Game 7 overtime. Chicago, though, dominated the upper bracket. Portland, though, what a fight they had throughout this series, Pi. I mean, starting from Game 4, these guys locked in. They gave it to Chicago over and over. They truly had Chicago questioning out moments. But at the end of the day, there can only be one champion.
There could only be one, and you could see Portland really ratcheted up that physical play style in the overtime period. Chaos Spike ends up with 7 demos for a total of 10 on the side of the Portland Journey. Ultimately, it wasn't enough to knock Chicago off of their game. They gave it a really good effort in games 4 through 6, those 3 unanswered wins for Portland, until Chicago was able to close it out in the overtime period of game number 7. The fact that it actually took multiple back-to-back overtimes for this to even happen is a testament to how well this Portland Journey team played. But in the end, it wasn't enough, and if it were to have gone to a bracket reset, I think Chicago, even though they would have lost, probably has the upper edge coming from the upper bracket.
But now as Season 16 comes to an end, I think it's time to discuss something a little bit cooler. For those of you new to the stream, you might be interested to know that Season 17 is slated to start on August 19th. If you are new to the stream, new to United Rogue, that is something you can certainly check out. Join our Discord and check it out. You can be involved as well. If this Grand Finals was cool to you, maybe you'll be the next one. Pi, thank you for joining me on the desk.
Absolutely. And one more shout out before we sign off on our final broadcast of Season 16. Thank you so much to everybody who's been involved so far in the production side of things. You know, Wasey's been a co-caster and been on the desk for many of these series, many of these grand finals as well. So congratulations to him. Thank you so much for joining me on the desk for this one. Our producers as well. Hot Grandma is our broadcaster for this evening. And I know we've had many broadcasters over the season, so I can't possibly name them all of our match officials as well, to keep the stream running as well as it normally does. And going on top of that, going even further as well, just a shout out to our entire leadership team, our entire League Ops team, and everybody involved in leadership of all of the franchises, all the captains as well. It's a volunteer league, and it really doesn't run as effectively unless people step up and put effort into it. So I'm very happy to have seen a lot of that so far this season as well, people stepping up when they're needed and really allowing our community to thrive as well as it does. And one final shout out again as well to you, the players, as this league would not exist without you guys and your participation in it, and you are what make it so fun. The game sevens that we get, the close series that we get to commentate, and just the league itself and the amount of camaraderie that I've seen so far in this season alone. And I've been in here quite a few seasons now, so it's great to see, and I cannot wait for season 17. So with that all being said, that's Wacy. I'm Pyre Squared. We're going to sign off the final broadcast of season 16. We'll see you August 19th.